Joining me is the federal member who represents the people of Lismore and surrounds, Kevin Hogan of the Nationals. Kevin, thank you so much for your time. So Lismore is flooded again and again and again, so often that an Italian restaurateur in Lismore, Floriano Volpato, even hired engineers himself in the 1980s to study building a canal to divert the floodwaters. Have you got any idea why so much of the city is still not protected?
Well, it's a very good question, Andrew, because I think the flood event up here this afternoon, the last 2 days, there have been two different stories. So if you look at the Clarence River, for example, which goes through Grafton, and the reporter with them was just talking about McLean and Almurra and the levees there. So the weather event, I must admit, though, in the Clarence wasn't quite as severe as the weather event that happened around the catchment in Lismore. But Grafton built a 1 in 100-year levee back in the 1960s, and Grafton has not flooded since. They built a levee both sides, so Grafton's protected, South Grafton's protected. So it's worked. And again, they've had some major floods, or they've had some major rainfall events since that time, but because they've got a 1 in 100-year levee, they haven't. Lismore, about 30 years ago, certainly I wasn't around to be involved in that discussion, but they chose a 1 in 10-year levee, which I think was a mistake. There are ramifications when you do that. We have to protect North and South Lismore, which is the other side of the river as well. So there's consequences you have to look at there. And I think we actually need to build a levee there to protect North and South Lismore. Doesn't solve the issues that we're seeing in our rural and agricultural lands, but it certainly could help Lismore's situation. And I think this finally, I hope, I've been pushing since 2017 that we keep talking about flood modelling and flood mitigation. As you gave the example in Holland, they've done this a long time ago, and they're engineering solutions for everything.
That's true. Kevin Hogan, why do you think the federal government's been doing enough to build proper levees to protect towns like Lismore? I mean, what's the hold up here?
Well, I think this is ground up. So what normally happens, we have an authority here, Rouse County Council, and the Lismore City Council is heavily involved as well. And it's more they drive it. So, the Grafton levee in the 1960s was driven by Grafton, and it was driven by the Clarence Valley community, and they demanded it and they got it. In Lismore, there's been, for whatever reason, I don't understand it, but there's been a lot more debates about what we want and what we don't want. Again, the community 30 years ago decided only 1 in a 10-year flood, and that was the Lismore community's decision. But look, this has been devastating, Andrew. You've seen the vision, I've seen the vision. This is going to take a long time for our community to recover from that. We've got to stop Lismore being associated with being a flood town. Grafton isn't anymore. Otherwise, it scares off investment, it scares off growth in the city.
Kevin Hogan, I appreciate your time. I hope you can get something done, and I hope some of the people that have been opposing some of these measures have had plenty of time sitting on their roofs to have another think about it. Thank you for your time.